I was asked to introduce the issue of perishable goods in the Trade Facilitation Agreement. And with the first slide, I wanted to evoke a little bit the spirit of Bali. We're always talking about the commitments that we have to do, but if you look at the Trade Facilitation Agreement, we should look at the possibilities and the new things we can do with trade facilitation. And I think this is in particular relevant for perishable goods. Perishable goods are in the GATT Article 7, and it's one of the late comers of the Trade Facilitation Agreement. It came relatively late in March 2013 that this article was introduced. If you look into the article, it starts out with a definition of what perishable goods are, and it emphasizes the fact that perishable goods are rapidly decaying due to the natural characteristics, and in particular if there's not appropriate storage conditions. So the article then continues in giving us the objectives of why perishable goods are in this agreement. So the objective is to avoid loss or deterioration of the perishable goods. And here there's two aspects. There's one time the aspect of the loss of goods, but it emphasizes also that there's characteristics of perishable goods that are strongly related to the freshness, to the way these goods are handled and stored. And with perishable goods, if you look into creating export opportunities, it is these qualities, if we well manage them through trade facilitation measures, that increase the quality of the good and that can create new markets and even new products. And I hope I have the time to go a little bit into this. The article also says that provided that the following measures should be applied, provided that the regulatory requirements have been met. So there is a prerogative of meeting regulatory requirements, and then we are looking into the management and the storage of these articles, of the goods. So there's two obligations of the government to, under normal circumstances, to process perishable goods in the shortest possible times, and under exceptional circumstances, to even process the release of these goods outside of the business hours. And I think it was Jonathan who was mentioning and was going into these peak times, and that the single window and the clearance systems need to manage, in particular, the peak times. Now, this is very relevant for perishable goods. First, perishable goods, it's not necessarily that they come the same amount of perishable goods all days of the week, so there's peak days typically. There's peak hours during the days, particular early morning hours and so on. And then most of all there's seasons. And that might not even, the seasons might not be affected by the import side of perishable goods, but mostly by the export type. If you're a country that is producing perishable goods, a lot of your laboratory testing equipment and capacity of your inspection services and so on are tied up during your peak export times. So when you look at these exceptional circumstances, you really need to see when are my own resources tied up for managing perishable goods, and how can I still allow a fast and efficient processing of incoming and outgoing consignments. And the paragraph, the article 792 is then in particular looking into the scheduling of examinations. So it says when you schedule the examinations, you really have to give a priority to the goods and not just make a first come, first served type of scheduling. The Article 793 then looks into the storage of the perishable goods. Governments actually have two choices here. They must either themselves take care of a proper storage of these goods, or they must give the importer an opportunity to care for the storage of these goods. And they say, okay, good, if the goods are not released for circulation in the country and we give the authority to the importer, then the government still can, it may require that there's some limitations with the choice of the storage facility and even with the movement of the goods to the storage facility. The last part of the article looks into the release of the goods. So first we looked into goods coming in, then we stored the goods. Now the clearance is done and we release the goods. And so the article says if it is feasible for the country, then the release of the goods should be allowed at the storage facilities. That sounds very reasonable. I just want to highlight the fact that this is easier on paper than it is to implement in reality. A lot of ports and airports today have gate management systems, so they tightly control the processing and the release of the goods, and this is linked to physical infrastructure. So when the truck passes the gate, then a number of processes and messages are triggered. For example, messages to the Ministry of Finance that VAT and other taxes need to be paid, and so on and so forth. So if the release of the good is now happening at other locations, then you need to implement all these procedures at, for example, at the warehouse and so on. So also this is a very useful procedure. It needs some type of thinking and some type of administrative rules and also IT and hardware equipment in order to properly control it. And then finally we have an article that, well, now the goods have been released, but here apparently problems in the process, so the importer is not so happy. So in case there were delays, in case goods, perishable goods were delayed and there's loss in quality or in the goods itself, then upon a written request, the importing member may provide information on what were the causes of this type of delays. I think this is something that on the long run can work as a type of a dialogue between the importers and the authorities in order to better understand where's capacity bottlenecks, where is inefficiencies in the procedures, and to work to an improvement of the situation. There's also Article 10 that has a reference to perishable goods, where it says that if the country applies trade facilitation measures, if it looks into the use of modern technologies, then they should give a certain priority to perishable goods in applying this type of measures. Now, given that I still have some minutes left, I would like to turn the view a little bit from the article towards what can we do with the article. And I think with perishable goods, this is a very interesting question. Perishable goods will benefit certainly there from the trade facilitation agreement because they are trade facilitation sensitive. the time, the speed in which these goods are processed and the conditions under which the clearance is done is very important. So the faster it goes, the cheaper perishable goods will become, and so there's business opportunities. But I think there's an opportunity to go beyond it and ask, perhaps this agreement can be a game changer. Perhaps if we use this new facilitation measures, the introduction of information technologies, we can create completely new perishable goods supply chains and completely new services for perishable goods. And if you look at some of the measures, like what Jonathan was emphasizing, single windows, if they are well implemented, they don't only have risk management and customs, but they manage risk across government agencies. We will see introduction of information technologies and sharing, collaboration of stakeholders, stronger involvement of third-party logistics providers. And the question we then should put to ourselves is, can we produce new goods and services for perishable goods, in particular from developing countries, into the lucrative markets of the developed countries? And this is a question that we asked ourselves in the new guide that we are currently drafting, or more or less the first draft is already available, for under UNECE information management in agri-food supply chains. And there we recommend to policymakers, to governments, to initiate stakeholder collaboration, to look into authorized exporter schemes, so to provide facilitation for exporters that meet certain criteria and have a good record, to dematerialize licenses and certificates for perishable goods, create an integrated risk management between Ministry of Agriculture and Customs, and to use information technology for track and tracing. And for policymakers, you always have to shape, you have to bundle ideas. So in the concept in the paper, we call this a smarter food single window. So enabling perishable goods through information technology. While we were drafting and working on this concept, I had a project in Greece, and we kind of applied this trade facilitation concept for fresh fruit and vegetable exports in Greece. The background is that Greece has a national trade facilitation strategy that consists of 25 key actions, including customs reform and so on and so forth, that was approved by the Parliament in 2012, and it's implemented until January of next year. A component of this trade facilitation strategy was the facilitation of export of Greek fresh fruit and vegetables. And this was done, or is done, in 5 steps. The first step, and I call it the step 0 because it's not really linked to fresh fruit and vegetables, was a general trade facilitation reform in the country. And you can only facilitate export of fresh fruit and vegetables if there is a base environment, a good environment for trade facilitation in the country. So I evoked the automation of customs, risk management, and so on and so forth. And then we said, okay, good, so the cornerstones of trade facilitation are in place. Then we targeted specifically agricultural produce, so we started with a business process analysis. The purpose was to understand specific supply chains, but also to get a feeling through the interviews with the main stakeholders on what is the specific issues in Greece when it comes to export of, first BPAs were done on feta cheese, which is a specific kind of Greek cheese, and on peaches. In a second step, we improved and automated the inspection systems. I shouldn't say we, it was the Greek government and the Greek administrations that did this. And in European Union countries, if you export fresh fruits, you need to have conformity certificates for each consignment, and that led the issuance of these conformity certificates led to a large number of inspections, paperworks, and the delays. So there was an electronic management system for conformity certificates introduced, including application for the conformity certificate, scheduling of inspectors, recording of the results, and so on and so forth. There was also a preferential exporter status. Most of the exporters are large exporters, and they meet certain criteria, and so there was legislation passed that exporters that qualify, that meet certain conditions, they are exempted from the certificates or can issue the certificates themselves if you want. Then there was the introduction of a risk management system that was linked to this approved exporter status. So Ministry of Agriculture doesn't inspect each and every consignment anymore, but is targeting the inspections. I summarize this on one simple slide as I speak about it, and some of you are perhaps from ministries of agriculture. You can imagine the type of work and the type of change management that all this involved, but it was implemented in a very short period, just above 1 year. Good. And then in the third step we said, well, we have now an automated customs data management system, we have an automated management system in Ministry of Agriculture, so can we put the two of them together? So in a way that's a single window type of approach, and this one we have gone through till making the specification with the two ministries. So it's not implemented, but we have an approved specification of how the implementation should work. Just some of the lessons learned. Technology isn't so much the question, and if you get the engineers together, the engineers can sort out problems pretty fast. What's difficult is to join the visions of two government agencies, and in particular to relate the two risk management systems. That is extremely difficult. Jonathan was hinting at this, and I think this is the next big step in single window development for collaboration, to really come to a joint risk management and not to two risk management systems that work one after the other. The last step then was to say, okay, we introduce facilitation, but that doesn't necessarily translate into more exports. So how can we make out of instruments, how can we make meat for the Greek population, in particular for the Greek producers? So what we did is we started a process where we identified the challenges for Greek exporters. We looked for the hotspots, then we looked into international benchmarking. So how do other countries deal with it? And if you are working in a member country of the European Union, you have a big advantage that you can get a lot of experts and government officials from other countries that feed into this process. And from there on, we developed some policy proposals, some solutions. So the solutions were then summarized in a concept for a Greek smarter food that said that there is an opportunity for Greece to develop premium IT-enabled brands that would focus into high-value niche markets such as organic and socially aware products that take advantage of the trade facilitation infrastructure and the capability of track and tracing that's in Greece. The quality of Greek products, Greek agricultural products have over the history a very good branding. A lot of Greece has a very positive attitude, or a lot of people have a positive attitude to Greece. They know Greece as a tourist destination, and this positive impression of Greece is then extended to agricultural products, so we can build on this. And Greece is a country of, in the area of agriculture, of smallholders and of regions. That is a disadvantage if you want to go into price competition, but it is a big advantage if you address niche markets, food that is that has a connotation to history and to specific regions. So this is a type of concept that we then developed. In the next step, we will discuss this with the stakeholders and with the policymakers. We have to see where we're going with this. What I wanted to show to you is that the Trade Facilitation Agreement will make trade and agricultural produce cheaper, faster, increase the quality, but maybe it can be even used as a platform to launch a new agricultural initiatives in your country and to launch new business. Thank you.